I'm hoping to see, where we have case studies where we are saying, since we've been going through the different scriptures we've done using the See, Judge, Act method, what has been achieved and how can those learnings be adapted in supporting in other countries. So for example, we currently know there was the decrim case in Botswana, which was absolutely wonderful to celebrate, but now we also reflect on what happened with Kenya, where the repeal didn't go well. I would like to see networks, authentic relationships and authentic networks, in that we're saying now, how do we go back to the Kenyan case and provide support? And when I say support, I'm not just saying around social media presence or sending messages of support. I'm saying about, if we say, okay, this is the team that worked in the Liga Bibo case in Botswana. Let's have certain experts that are going to help with Kenya to support them. These are activists in Namibia, your Linda Bowmans, your Deonces, who've set up structures and they're working with their First Lady of Namibia. Although the country has not spoken about decrim, but the First Lady is starting up processes, opening spaces where diversity is being discussed. Bring those activists and say, what has worked for you in opening those spaces? How have you worked around where the law still remains stagnant or it's not wanting to repeal? But how have you been able to tap into stakeholders that are willing to journey with you? So my greatest expectation in whether it happens during this process or maybe it'll happen at the next process is having hardcore case studies, having faces to case studies, and having authentic relationships. So when we say we support activists, we are saying we are supporting this team in Kenya, this is what they've achieved. We are supporting this team in Malawi, this is what they've achieved. If we're saying in South Africa, we have cases, but this is what we're working on, creating language that is life-affirming, creating language that is accepting within the church, and we not only in the church space, but also in our own narrative, in our own indigenous tongue, where we can say, this is our progress, this is what we've worked with, and this is who we work with. I think for me, it's very important having those authentic relationships, because then it will allow us to keep on running on the ground. I was very interested in how Hanslin introduced the process of stubbornization, where once again it's reclaiming the word and using that word to disrupt our spaces. So often you find that there's queer theology, and queer theology is only used in certain contexts. But he spoke of that within our religion sector, we should stop being comfortable where we're talking about diversity, it's just lesbian and gay. It's the inclusion of the others that have been erased or silenced. I've really been quite vocal around bisexual women and the challenges that they face. And I'm talking about bisexual women where you find that they're experiencing violence in same-sex relationships as well as experiencing violence in heterosexual relationships, yet there's no space where you can share about that. And when you're in a space, let's say you're talking about gender-based violence, you are then further victimized, because then it's people say, yeah, but choose, decide, what are you? Are you with the lesbians? Are you with the straight women? Or you are using privilege to pass off as straight? So the process of stubbornization, where we are owning our identities and we are the voices speaking within the space, is very important. I also agree in that change needs to come from within. So within our faith spaces, different faiths, whether you're Islam, whether it's within Judaism, whether you're a spiritualist or African spirituality, it's where you get to own your identity and queerness, and you redefine what queerness looks like for you within your faith space. Often you find that when we're engaging with different stakeholders, a person will understand certain people's stories, but only once they personalize it and they see the person, then it becomes a thing of, this does affect me. And the greatest way for us to impact and further our change is opening minds and opening hearts, and that's through sharing our narratives, and it's queering our theology, it's queering our narrative, it's going into that church and saying, I stand to receive the bread of Christ as a bisexual woman. And while I'm receiving the bread of Christ and the blood of Christ, I remember my trans sisters who cannot be in the space, who've been excluded because of how they present. I remember my intersex brothers who are now going through challenges of how do I present because of decisions that were made on their behalf without consulting them. So it's very important for us to own our identity. It's important for us to have a word in terms of owning that process. And important, we must own our stories and not allow allies to speak on our behalf.